Storytime with Tom Foolery presents Graham the Gardener Trims a Neat Bush, written by Jen Jenivive, dedicated to all bush lovers. In a village so quaint, with gardens so lush, lived Graham the Gardener with a magical touch. He had a green thumb and a keen, sharp eye for trimming the bushes that grew way too high. One day in spring, when flowers were in bloom, Graham got a call from Mrs. McBoom. "My bush is a mess. It's wild and it's thick. I need you to trim it and make it look slick." Graham grabbed his shears, his gloves, and his hat, and off to her garden he went in a chat. Her bush was unruly, tangled, and wide. Graham sighed deeply and stepped to the side. With a snip and a snap, he started his task. Trimming and shaping, he worked with great class. Mrs. McBoom watched, her cheeks turning red. "My, you're so skilled," she coyly said. Graham just smiled and continued to trim, making her bush neat and perfectly prim. When he was done, she beamed with delight. "My bush looks amazing. It's such a fine sight." Word of Graham's skills spread far and wide. Soon all the housewives wanted him to their side. Mrs. Green called him up, her voice full of cheer. "Graham, my dear, can you come over here?" He arrived at her house, his tools at the ready. Her bush was enormous, thick, and unsteady. With patience and care, he trimmed and he pruned, leaving her bush looking perfectly tuned. "Oh, Graham," she sighed, "you're truly the best. My bush is now better than all of the rest." The town was abuzz with Graham's fine work. Housewives were calling with barely a smirk. Mrs. Brown called him next. Her bush was a fright. "Can you come over and fix it tonight?" Graham agreed, for he loved what he did, trimming each bush, removing each bid. Mrs. White was the last. Her bush was the worst. It was wild and overgrown. She thought it was cursed. But Graham was determined. He worked through the night, trimming and shaping, till it looked just right. The ladies all gathered, their bushes pristine. Thanks to Graham's talent, their gardens now seen. They whispered and giggled, their eyes full of glee. "Graham the Gardener, he's the man for me." So Graham became famous, the talk of the town, for trimming the bushes from dusk till dawn. With each careful snip, each satisfied sigh, Graham the Gardener was the apple of every eye. In that quaint little village, with gardens so lush, lived Graham the Gardener with a magical touch. He trimmed every bush, making them neat, and every housewife thought he was sweet. I love my neat bush. The perfectly trimmed end. Graham the gardener trims a neat bush. Written by Jen Jenivive. Narrated by Tom Foolery. A very special thank you to Jen Jenivive for sending us her latest release. You can check out Jen Jenivive on TikTok and Instagram. Also, buy all of her books. Obey. So, there are two old men sat on a park bench. And the one says to the other, "It's nice out, isn't it?" And the other one says, "Yes, I think I might get mine out." Speaking of birds, if dove is the bird of peace, what is the bird of love? A swallow, of course. Let us know in the comments section your favourite kind of garden. Do you like it bushy and overgrown, or do you like it trimmed and neat? Or maybe you just have it all tarmacked so you can park your car. Finger the links on screen. More story time coming soon. See you next Tuesday.